Imagine suddenly turning into a vampire, but not just any ordinary one. He can even walk freely under the sun like it's nothing. On top of that, he can even stop time and do whatever he wants. And yeah, you already know what that means. Complete freedom, no interruptions because no one would ever notice. Now his only goal is simple. Get close to every beautiful girl he can, and somehow the more time he spends with them, the stronger he becomes. So go ahead, like the video, and let's start this wild story from the very beginning. We open with a collapsed building, where our protagonist is trapped at that very moment. From a distance, news reporters announce that the building suddenly gave way, leaving many people stuck inside, with rescue becoming harder by the minute. Inside we see him clenching his teeth trying to endure the intense pain. He's pinned under a broken wall, completely unable to move his injured arm. As time passes, the pain only gets worse and tears slowly roll down his face. Our boy tries to push the heavy stone away with his other hand, but soon he realizes it's completely useless. Staring at his hopeless situation, he begins to wonder, how did he even end up like this? Just a few days ago he was working as a delivery boy, riding around with his friend, ready to handle another part-time shift. While driving, his friend warned him that the apartment building they were heading to was new and a bit confusing, so he should be careful. After that, our protagonist carried all the heavy boxes by himself, and before long his back started giving up on him. But the receiver, a woman, didn't even thank him. Instead, she casually told him to throw the garbage bags outside. As if he was some kind of cleaner, her attitude had no shame at all. After finishing that, he returned to the vehicle and picked up even more boxes to deliver in the same building. Entering the lift, he quietly complained about having to carry everything alone. When the lift doors opened on the 22nd floor, he noticed a woman walking alongside a rich, well-dressed older man toward the elevator. The old man greeted him casually, while staying quite close to the woman. From our boy's perspective, the two of them looked way too familiar with each other, like they had a very long night, and she still hadn't recovered from it. Soon after, the man walked away with the woman on his floor. Watching him leave, our protagonist couldn't help but feel jealous of that man's lifestyle. After all, he had seen this same man with a completely different woman just a few days ago, and even before that he was with two girls at once. Every single time our boy ran into him, he was always surrounded by another beautiful woman, and honestly, it made him pretty jealous. The man even wore a luxury watch, something that could cost millions, way beyond anything our boy could ever dream of owning. Watching him from a distance, he couldn't help but regret his own life, wishing he could live like that old man. But today felt different. He noticed the man was alone in the lift, thinking maybe he was heading out. Suddenly, the man turned toward him, his eyes glowing red as he called our boy and calmly asked if he was getting off. Startled, our protagonist asked why, but deep inside he was already panicking, thinking the man got annoyed from being stared at. The man simply replied that he often delivers on this floor, and our boy confirmed, saying the room owner orders a lot, even thanking him. Just as he was about to step out of the lift with the boxes, the man called him again. He quietly warned that the building was shaking, and told him to be careful on the way. After that, the man pressed his floor button, while our boy walked out, casually saying he'd be careful. Once the man was gone, he set the heavy boxes down, thinking he had misunderstood him. Maybe the man wasn't cold after all, but kind. Still, he wondered why he said the building was shaking. Everything looked completely fine, but the moment he picked the boxes back up, the building actually started shaking. This time it was intense. The boxes slipped from his hands as the floor itself began to crack. Pressing himself against the wall, our boy could only think, his luck couldn't possibly get any worse. And that's what led to his current situation. The building collapsing with his arm trapped under a broken wall. Lying there, he thought about his miserable life. If he died now, no one would even notice. Gritting his teeth through the pain, he refused. He didn't want to die like this. So he gathered all his strength and screamed desperately for help. Suddenly he heard a familiar voice. The same man asking if he was the delivery boy from before. Looking toward the sound, he saw the voice coming from between the broken walls right in front of him. Our boy quickly asked if he was that old man from the lift and if he was hurt too. But the man replied that it wasn't important right now, as a strange red liquid slowly seeped through the cracks where his voice came from. The man then said the sun would rise soon, and they didn't have much time left. Confused, our protagonist replied, "What does the sun matter? If no one comes, we're dead anyway." The man calmly said that if things continued like this, both of them would die here, then asked if he wanted help surviving the situation. Desperate, our boy immediately asked how. The man simply said, "It's easy, just drink the blood," right in front of him, shocking our protagonist to his core. The scene then shifts to 2 weeks later inside a hospital. We see a nurse at work, overhearing the news. It was about the collapsed building from a few weeks ago, with demolition set to begin today. The report stated that a total of 20 people died, with only one survivor. After hearing that, the nurse heads in to check on the patient she signed in earlier. Seeing him, she couldn't help but wonder, wasn't he trapped in that collapse? How did he make it out with just a broken arm? And yes, she was talking about our protagonist lying unconscious on the bed, looking like he was in a coma. She studies his face, thinking he looks weak. Nothing about him seems special, so how did he survive? Slowly, she brings her hand closer to his face, wondering if she just saw it move slightly. To be sure, she gently taps his face, asking if he can hear her, hoping for any response. But after getting nothing back, she gives up on the idea. She then leaves the room, convincing herself she's just tired and imagining things. But the moment she steps out, a voice suddenly tells our boy to stop pretending to be in a coma. Hearing that, our protagonist slowly opens his eyes, clearly startled. He couldn't believe what he was seeing, an old man's ghost right in front of him, and no one else seemed to notice, making him panic inside. Almost losing his composure, he whispers that if anyone finds out he's seeing a ghost, they'll send him straight to a mental hospital. The old man then transforms into a violet flame, and our boy nervously asks, did he actually die back then? Alright viewers, from now on, let's call this old man the Soul. The Soul confirms it, and our protagonist quickly asks another question. Was he the one who caused the building to collapse? The Soul responds calmly, asking if he thinks he has a death wish. Of course he wasn't the one. Still confused, our boy asks what exactly he did to his body, and why he's the only one who can see him. The Soul reveals the truth. He survived because he drank his blood when given the choice, and that's exactly why he's the only one who can see or hear him now. With an annoyed expression, our protagonist argues that he only did it because he was desperate and had no other way to survive. The Soul shrugs it off, saying whatever the reason, drinking that blood turned him into a vampire, which is how he survived. Hearing the word vampire, our boy is completely shocked, thinking about those creatures from movies who survive by feeding on blood. The Soul confirms that vampires are real, he himself is one, and now our protagonist has become one too. Our boy grabs his head in frustration, thinking his life is over, no sunlight and a life depending on blood, but the Soul quickly clears things up. Since he drank the blood instead of being bitten, he became something different, a hybrid, free from those usual restrictions and able to walk under the sun. Still confused, our protagonist asks, what exactly does he need to do now as a vampire? The Soul calmly replies, it's simple, influence humans and make them his own. Shocked, our boy questions him, does he really expect him to believe all this vampires and controlling people? The Soul casually tells him to step outside the room and check for himself if he's telling the truth. Our protagonist hesitates for a moment, but the Soul urges him to trust him just this once. Slowly, our boy peeks outside the room and instantly freezes in shock at the scene before him. Everything in front of him is completely still, like time itself has stopped and only he can move. Even a nurse nearby is frozen mid-action while filling her cup with water, and the water droplets are hanging motionless in mid-air. The Soul then explains that vampires aren't just what people see in movies, they're far more than simple blood drinkers. The power he has now is far greater than he realizes, and this is only the beginning. With a nervous voice, our protagonist asks, does that mean influencing people and making them his own is actually real? And the Soul simply nods. Still unsure, our boy asks how exactly he's supposed to do that. The Soul smirks and says it's obvious. Just screw them. And after that, everything will naturally fall into place. Our protagonist is stunned hearing that he can't believe he actually has to get that close to them to make them his. The Soul calmly explains that if he truly does it, they will naturally become his. And not just anyone. He could have all the beautiful women in the world. They would follow his every word, every little request without hesitation. The Soul pushes further. Just imagine having all the beauty the world has to offer. And this time no one would ever reject him. Glancing at the nearby nurse, our boy starts thinking, maybe now he can finally have everything he wants and no one would ever look down on him again. Soul says wasn't this exactly what he had been wishing for all along? The Soul adds that his vampire abilities will only grow stronger with time, but that's for later. Right now, he needs to decide what kind of person he wants to become. A normal human who gets looked down on, or someone who can stand above it all. For a moment, our boy silently stares at the Soul. Deep down, he realizes he made this choice a long time ago. He remembers his harsh past, working endless delivery jobs just to pay for college. Watching that old man surrounded by beautiful women and luxury, living life to the fullest. He finally speaks, telling the Soul his decision. He chooses to become someone who stands above ordinary people. A few hours later, we see the same nurse from before, busy working on reports. Suddenly, someone calls out her name, Nurse Yumi. Two senior nurses approach her, accusing her of not completing the documents they assigned. Yumi calmly explains that she already finished them and placed the papers on her desk. But they snap back, asking if she's talking back and saying she lacks proper manners. Forcing a smile, Nurse Yumi quietly apologizes. As they leave, she thinks to herself they only came to bother her. After finishing her work, she heads to the rooftop to get some fresh air. From behind a wall, our boy watches her while the soul whispers that he should freeze time, approach her, and make her his. After all, she's quite beautiful. Our protagonist quickly reminds him that his power is still weak. He only learned yesterday and he can barely stop time for 3 minutes. The soul admits that's true, but once he gets used to it, both his time limit and power will increase. He glances back at her and thinks, yeah, better just watch for now. If he pulls a time-stop stunt and gets caught, it's straight to jail. Suddenly, our protagonist is shocked as he looks at her. Nurse Yumi is tightly holding a baseball bat in her hand. It seems she's trying to release all the frustration she's been holding in from her senior's constant mockery. The next moment she starts swinging the bat in the air. Watching her like that, our boy gets nervous. If he used his power and she caught him, she might actually knock him out with that bat. After a few swings, she sits down, sighing that she's become soft over the years. Then Yumi stands up and fixes her hair. She mutters that if this were back in her high school days, none of them would have gotten away with it. Only her job is holding her back now. Seeing the sight of her, our boy thinks she's stubborn and full of anger, but somehow it's kind of cute. Yumi then checks her phone. She casually says it's time to check on that lowly street boy. Hearing that, our protagonist frowns slightly, wondering what she just called him. A few minutes later, back in the room, she checks his vitals, which look normal, while our boy pretends to stay unconscious, sweating nervously. She notices the sweat on his face and stares at him closely. Our boy thinks just a moment ago she looked cute and now she's just annoying. Looking at him, Yumi comments that even some parents can dream big. She adds that he looks like a poor street boy who couldn't even afford a cup of noodles if he woke up right now. Before leaving, she waves her hand lightly, telling him to stay strong, and that Nurse Yumi will come check on him later. 1 hour later, we move to the resting room. Nurse Yumi is fast asleep, completely unaware of her surroundings. Standing in front of her is our boy, staring at her coldly after being insulted earlier. The soul comments that he's quite bold, sneaking into her room while she's asleep. Our protagonist thinks she definitely needs to pay for the way she treated him. But as he looks at her closely, he admits she's actually quite attractive. Just someone with a lot of anger and a bad attitude toward people like him. Looking around the room, he wonders if he can handle the situation if she suddenly wakes up. If he gets caught, it won't just be trouble, he could end up in serious danger. Still, he reminds himself he has one option: if anything goes wrong, he can freeze time and escape. Realizing there's no turning back now, he decides to act. Slowly, he begins crossing a line he never thought he would, while she remains asleep. Our boy is left in disbelief, wondering how someone's skin could be this soft. Meanwhile, she continues sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of what's about to unfold. Our protagonist begins getting closer, testing his bold decision. After drinking enough mango juice, our boy doesn't stop there, pushing further as his confidence rises. Suddenly, the soul warns him that she's about to wake up. The moment she begins to sit up, our boy snaps his fingers. Freezing time instantly, everything around them stops completely. Frozen in place, she sits there, facing his direction. Our boy realizes the room is dark, she won't be able to see his face clearly. With only 3 minutes, he hesitates. Should he leave now or finish what he started? At first, he thinks about leaving, but as he looks at her pretty face and notices her soft lips, he changes his mind, deciding to continue just a little longer. The soul comments that now he's finally starting to act like a true vampire. Holding her gently, our boy says coldly, it's time she pays for her earlier behavior. After a few intense moments, he decides to stop here for today. He quickly asks the soul if his time is up and whether they should leave. The soul calmly explains there's no need to panic. She's overwhelmed and her senses are shut down, causing her to fall back asleep. After making sure everything looks normal, our boy carefully sneaks back to his room so no one suspects anything. Back in his room, he exhales deeply, saying it all feels like a dream. Lying there, our protagonist starts thinking, if he tried something like that without his vampire power, what would have happened if he got caught? The soul quickly stops his negative thoughts and tells him to look at his broken arm, making our boy wonder if the soul can read his mind. When he looks at his arm, he's completely stunned. His broken arm has fully recovered overnight. Shocked, he asks how that's even possible. He clearly remembers the doctor saying he would need surgery to fix it. The soul explains it's because he took a sip of that special energy, and in the process, absorbed a bit of her life force. Just by playing that little game, he can slowly grow stronger. Our boy then asks if there's anything else he should be worried about. The soul warns him not to stay with one person for too long, or they might end up completely drained. Lying back on his bed, our protagonist thinks, so all he needs to do is find new connections to keep things going. The scene shifts to Nurse Yumi, who just stepped out after taking a shower. She frowns in irritation, thinking about what a strange and uncomfortable dream she had last night. Something about it just didn't feel right, out of all people. Why did she dream about that poor street boy when she sees handsome men every day? And even after waking up, things felt off. Her mouth tasted bitter, her body felt strange, and she was exhausted, almost like the dream was too real. She shakes it off, convincing herself it was just a dream, and starts putting on her nurse uniform. Still annoyed, she even thinks about teasing that boy a little for somehow showing up in her dream and messing with her. Suddenly, another nurse rushes in, calling her name urgently. She tells her that the coma patient has woken up this morning. Next we see, our protagonist pretends to finally wake up, telling the doctor he doesn't remember anything after the building collapsed. The doctor replies that it's a miracle he recovered so quickly, and our boy politely thanks him. He then asks for permission to visit his university and submits an absence application, while Yumi quietly watches from the door. Narrowing her eyes, she stares at him in suspicion. After yesterday's bizarre dream and now his miraculous recovery, she wonders if it's really just a coincidence, or if he's been faking it this whole time. A few hours later we arrive at his university. The campus is filled with beautiful students walking around. Even the professors are stunning, followed by her secretary managing her busy schedule. And of course there are those confident girls who act like they run the place. Our boy tells the soul there's no better place full of pretty girls than his university. The soul simply agrees as they walk inside. He hands his absence form to the in-charge girl, who's wearing a cap and carefully checking the papers. Suddenly, his eyes drift down to her massive bags, wondering how she's even able to walk around with all that size. Thinking to himself, there was no doubt that the man who ended up with her would be blessed for life. She accepts the application and suddenly asks if he remembers her. Our boy is caught off guard by the unexpected question. She removes her cap and asks again if he recognizes her now. She explains that they were in the same class and course last year, and they still are this year, so shouldn't he remember her? Scratching his head awkwardly, he asks for her name again. She pouts and replies it's Lee Hyojin. Don't you remember? Truth is, he does remember her. But she always felt like someone from a completely different world, so he kept his distance. Suddenly she grabs his hand, saying she thought all her classmates had transferred. She feels relieved he's still here, and suggests they both do their best for a bright future. After that, our protagonist returns and changes back into his hospital clothes. The soul asks why he looks so happy and our boy replies, why wouldn't he be? She talked to him for the first time. The soul then asks why he didn't make a move on her. She's beautiful too. Our protagonist responds, are you serious? If he used his ability recklessly, he'd get caught instantly. First, he needs to understand and control his power. He then lies down on the bed and asks the soul to teach him more vampire abilities. But before they begin, he hears someone approaching. It's Yumi, entering with a calm smile, asking if she disturbed his rest. Our boy is surprised to see her there. She leans closer, introducing herself as Nurse Yumi, her smile giving off a slightly chilling vibe. Sitting up, he asks why she's here, saying he was just about to rest. Holding his hand lightly, she says she's here to check on his recovery. She mentions how unusually fast he's healing. Most patients don't recover this quickly. Our protagonist responds with a calm smile, saying he's always been known for being healthy. She gives a suspicious smile and points out that he doesn't feel any pain after waking up and even went out immediately. Honestly, she's jealous of his next-level recovery speed. Realizing she's just fishing for answers without any proof, our protagonist calmly plays it cool, saying he's just in great shape and ready to go home. She then asks if he knows she wrote a short story based on him. It's about someone waking up from a coma and secretly roaming the hospital at night, sneaking to others' room. Instead of denying it, our boy just smiles and praises Nurse Yumi for being so sharp. Hearing that, she falls silent for a moment. She fully expected him to deny it, which would have made her think it was just a dream. But his reaction now, suddenly blushing red, she accuses him of sneaking into her room while she was asleep. Our boy suddenly asks, does he really look like a lowly street boy? Catching her off guard, he reveals he was awake back then, listening to everything she said, including the cute nickname she gave him. And he's not done yet. He adds that he even remembers the expression she made when she told him to stay strong, saying Nurse Yumi would come see him later. So he waited. But when she didn't show up, he decided to go himself, leaving her completely stunned. Then he asks calmly, do hospital rules really allow nurses to insult patients based on their background? Crossing her arms, she fires back. So what if he heard it? What can he even do? And asks if he's actually admitting to what he did. Suddenly, our boy steps closer, showing his phone, saying he didn't just hear it. He recorded everything. She's confused. How could he know in advance? That was the only time she ever said something like that. And she questions again if he really entered her room. He corners her slightly and asks if she has any proof like he does. Smiling mischievously, he decides to get straight to the point. He tells her that if she agrees to 3 special requests, he'll delete the recording. Biting her lip in embarrassment and blushing deeply, she hesitantly asks what those 3 requests are. Suddenly stopping herself, she turns toward the door and snaps, telling him to stop talking nonsense and remember his place. But before walking out, her voice turns calm as she tells him to report her if he wants, since she can always just quit. With that, she angrily slams the door shut and leaves. The soul praises his boldness for confronting her directly, but also wonders if he went too far, especially without real evidence. Our protagonist replies that to reach his goal, he has to take risks like this. And along the way he can always create evidence, leaving the soul confused. He then casually asks the soul to teach him something useful like turning into a bat. But the soul gets annoyed, telling him to take things seriously for once. As the scene shifts to midnight, before leaving, another nurse warns Yumi not to fall asleep on shift and she agreed. Once she's alone, Yumi relaxes since most of her work is done. But her peace is short-lived as she starts worrying about what happened earlier. She wonders if refusing his requests could cost her her job. Desperate to protect her career, she decides to take action, even if she's not sure it's the right choice. Next, she quietly sneaks into our protagonist's room. Seeing him fast asleep, her plan is simple: find his phone and delete the evidence. She wonders where he hid it, under his pillow or in his pocket. Deciding to check the room first, she slowly opens a drawer and begins her search. She carefully stays quiet, making sure not to wake him. But to her shock, our boy suddenly snaps a photo and starts recording her. He calmly says he knew she'd come back and asks if she's searching through someone else's things. The soul then realizes this is exactly what he meant by gathering evidence along the way. She quickly tries to cover it up, awkwardly claiming she was only checking his reports. But our protagonist keeps recording, while she nervously begs him to stop so they can talk things out. Suddenly he grabs her arm and pulls her closer, saying there's nothing to discuss. She loses balance and ends up in an awkward position on his lap, as a slight smile appears on his face. Nervously, she asks what he's planning to do. Our boy lightly smacks her, saying it's punishment for sneaking around like a thief. She panics and tells him to stop, but he continues, making sure she doesn't forget the lesson. Then he holds her firmly, not letting her escape. He says sneaking into someone's room and going through their things, what a troublesome nurse she is. She quickly begs him to stop, promising she won't do it again. But now our boy decides to test his new ability. He focuses, gathering energy into his hand, as a strange blue aura forms around it. He remembers what the soul said about this unique vampire technique. Back then he complained it sounded normal, like something anyone could do. But the soul called him a fool, saying this ability has been perfected over thousands of years, making it something far beyond ordinary. And the moment he uses it, he realizes just how effective it really is. With that, he continues his lesson, pushing things further than before. Unable to take it anymore, she finally gives in and says she'll agree to whatever he asks. With a slight smile, our boy asks if she'll still agree no matter what he asks, even if it's too much. She says yes, but inside she's panicking and wondering how things turned out like this.